attitude wasn't so negative to start.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The general attitude is negative because apparently it's okay to kill an Omnic.
So Charmer's in now.
Let's talk about that, maybe.
Charmer's in for GrandXur, and he's going to be playing the Doomfist here. It does seem like, especially on the defense here, the Doomfist Sombra being played by GrandXur as well as Marlon on the Ana. So what they're really saying is we're prepared for Ryan Goats, which is exactly what We're Eternal Gaming is playing.
Charm has come to harm. That's going to be the punch. Nice stun, quick reactions there, and that actually means no kills in the rotation. Well, except for Ambio dying Silver Coin, and now Ison, as he tries to retreat, is going to go down. Blueberry as well, and this ought to be a rout.
You can see the positioning here from GrandXur as well. They actually chase out towards the spawn first. They get Ison down, knowing that if the rest of We're Eternal Gaming want to go back to the spawn, they have to eventually face GrandXur, and so GrandXur get a massive cleanup. Now you're going to see some changes. Ambio onto the Genji, Jasmine onto the Sombra, and this is part of what we did also see on Lee Jung Tower. When there's a Doomfist on one side, you're probably going to see a Sombra on the opposite.
This is the adaptation now. And I would like to see how We're Eternal approach this one. So they are a little bit behind in the macro game, but there's still a window where they can just out-frag.
There certainly is, but there's only 1 minute gone right now, and GrandXur don't actually have any ultimates just yet. We're Eternal going to fight now.
Very aggressive move forward. They find Papillon. That's huge on the opening now. So they look to get onto the point itself. Charm with the Meteor Strike could really sort of stop this one. Short slams down, doesn't find anything. Hacked out as well and stunned up. Excellent reactions there from We're Eternal. They do lose a couple of members in the thick of the fight, but Ambio's done the work. They are looking to come out the top of this one.
And as they lose, though, Nano Boost was used onto Hamzy, which allows him to charge up an EMP quite quickly. And he managed to stay alive as well. Despite now losing this point, they are prepared to defend onto B, but that is the danger of running Doomfist into a Sombra. You see what happens. You go in for the Meteor Strike. You go and try and dive on top of them, instantly hacked out, and a hack means you die.
Very late reset on Kana, which might not have been necessary when you consider at 82% to remake, but I mean, what's done is done. They're back in the fight now, and We're Eternal, they do have an opportunity to snowball if they can get these ultimates up.
Yeah, they're not doing it very quickly, though. Likely they're waiting for the Dragon Blade and possibly the EMP to come up first, which would enable them to have a much better fight, knowing that there is already an EMP on the side of GrandXur. Charm now swapping off the Brigida.
Yeah, and just flanked around. They didn't quite catch that one, but We're Eternal haven't... Oh, as we say, that Ambio does unfortunately go down. A bit too much forward pressure coming out of Papillon. So, nicely done by GrandXur. They've at least got the one kill, which is going to slow We're Eternal down significantly.
And it's definitely still far below the standard of what you'd expect out of EMP, though it wasn't a full round. You didn't get a huge cleanup. Just one kill stops We're Eternal Gaming down ever so slightly. It's just a bit of a nuisance. They do get to regroup. Ambio are going to be pretty safe, at least for now. GrandXur ultimately was a bit of a whiff.
Would have liked to get more out of the EMP for sure, but they still have plenty at their disposal, combined with the respawn advantage. They are still in a potentially okay spot, but nice wrap around here.
Hugo's wait, he's trying to bait on the EMP. Wow, look at that fast fingers.
They connect to it, and I mean, it was only on Hugo, but like you said, fast enough fingers that actually ends up being onto no one. Now Ambio with the blade out. After that Transcendence runs out, immediately finds Hugo and his co-support and Marlon. In fact, all the supports on GrandXur dead. Now it's the tank's turn. Silvercoin going to get popped. Papillon does have a Primal Rage to help stall. Has to throw it out now. Hamzy as well.
So low.
Fight, but trying to charge up an EMP. Papillon down. Now Hamzy's got to contest, but wants to still charge up an EMP. It's such a tough spot to be in, and that means the third goes over to We're Eternal, who still have ultimates to spare, by the way.
4 of them, in fact, self-destruct from Silvercoin by a bit of time. Finally, the EMP comes out, but it's not good enough.
Yeah, they can't follow up on it. It's just Hamzy alone. Papillon does at least get Kana while he's self-destructing, but he trades his own life for that kill. Now Charm onto the point with a nano boost on him of all people to put it on because they've got no other options. That's going to be a Wrecking Ball coming out from Silvercoin as well. These members have survived, and it might just be for long enough to GrandXur to respawn and come back on the point.
Actually, the nano boost onto Charm was very effective, and GrandXur now are kind of stalling this one through. It's an even trade.
Yeah, 1 for 1, but the EMP out could have been big if not for Hugo's Transcendence. Second time he's been able to counter that one. Now it's Ambio's turn with the Dragon Blade so low, still alive, looking for Marlon, has to deflect, and Hugo finds him from the side. And this is where GrandXur can start to eke their way back into this, but you've got to say, We're Eternal, they are going to fight to the last. In for a penny, in for a silver coin, but this is indeed GrandXur repelling We're Eternal.
90.1%. It was the nano boost that changed everything. And I was about to criticize, and I probably will still at this point. Marlon staying on top of the Ana probably put them in deep waters to start with. You really need the sound barrier. You need the Lucio. If nothing else, you just want the peel factor and the speed boost. And for GrandXur, it was that Dragon Blade from Angur that put them down so quickly to begin with, put them in that desperation scenario. But then the Nano Boost on the Charm, buying a lot of time as a Brigida, Papillon coming through as a, or actually Silvercoin coming through as a Hammond. That's what really happened.
The minefield nicely positioned. GrandXur having a bit of a hard time rejoining the team now as Zyson able to survive the rotation for the time being, but extremely low as they do so. So GrandXur can just kind of push the advantage here.
We're sort of at the point now where 99% as well.
Yeah, just finally reaches breaking point as Papillon finds a second one, third and fourth. That's going to be all she wrote for that fight. Even finding a fifth. Are you kidding me, Papillon? 6. That's all of them.
Gets the kill credit on the falling Blueberry as well. GrandXur's going to eat that one right up, and for We Are Eternal Gaming, that is a tough loss. That's been one of their toughest fight losses we've seen for a while now. And it's tough as, nearly as tough as the one, in fact even worse than the one we saw into A, but since then, We Are Eternal have mainly gotten out with a lot of members alive. Not this time, and GrandXur, despite being on their backs for a lot of that previous fight, 90.1 as a reminder, they're definitely in position to continue defending now. 2 support ultimates, rally nearly available, no big guns for We Are Eternal Gaming.
First rotation is successful though. Now they need to address the point itself as Hugo up on the high ground, uncontestable. Papillon with the Nano Boost, trying to get in the thick of it, but We Are Eternal can just back up. Not when that Earth Shatter comes through. Oh, Amgu able to stay alive. And the counter shatter is huge with the sound barrier running on We Are Eternal as well. Hugo on the low ground. Transcendence saves the rest of the members, but Papillon and Hamzy already being down, Charm low. And now the Transcendence runs out as the Grav gets committed, unfortunately, onto no one, but the kill's still coming through. Silvercoin forced to contest the point, and this is where GrandXur could not wait for the respawns because those 2/3 had already gone over. Self-destruct out finds Hamzy. Now it's just Marlon, gets bumped back off the point. Charm, Soul contesting right now, going to eventually be forced off it, and the cap will finally go over to We Are Eternal.
And the 2 tanks play out so consistently at this point, it's becoming predictable. When you're seeing Papillon going over to the Rhine, and both of them have Shatter, it's Papillon throwing the Shatter directly into Ison's shield, and Ison's going to take none of that, throws the Shatter back over, and it hits everybody, or at least most of the members on GrandXur. And that's how We Are Eternal Gaming clean up so many fights. Look, Papillon, when he's on the Winsome, gets a decent play against Papillon. Sometimes they're very evenly matched, but it was Rhine versus Rhine. It's Ison like 90% of the time.
Now on the defense, We Are Eternal have set themselves up to win. That's the important thing. But you've got to say, this is still a competitive series thus far. I mean, I definitely see at least the possibility for GrandXur to take us into a time back. The question then would be, who comes in with the more favorable time on the board? 1:15 isn't necessarily a lot.
I'd have to say as well, it was GrandXur that took a little bit of a risk on that initial A defense, which did pay off for them at least for the opening fight. But when you do play something like that, the attacking team, whether they lose that fight or not, whether they scout it out, they do get the opportunity to rejig their composition, which is exactly what happened. This time around, We Are Eternal Gaming going to play their own sort of Doomfist defense here. No Sombra in sight. It's just going to be regular goats for the most part, and then Kana on the Doomfist, something that we did see on Lijiang Tower. GrandXur, if they keep Hamzy on the Sombra, which they probably will once they spot Kana, is possibly going to put them in a position to actually counter.
I'm going to have nightmares about that. I mean, that's... Oh, anyway, Marlon is actually...
Marlon hopes you have nightmares.
Just a scouting Sombra.
For now, anyway, I mean, Marlon's prepared. I mean, they're going to go on to the full pharmacy here as well as the Sombra, so they want to counter everything else. The pharmacy versus the 5 members of Ghosts, and the Sombra versus Kana and the Doomfist. So GrandXur are well prepared, taking no risks.
Now, just looking for the angle.
Look at this, hunting them down.
Yeah, Kana has to go way back. He can't get that early damage on the rotating members of GrandXur like he would want. That means GrandXur now just freely rocketing onto the point, as in firing rockets. In case that wasn't clear enough from the health bars that are low on We Are Eternals. Now they're forced way off the point just to take shelter.
Ooh, that's a kill already. Hamzy just gone hunt to kill him mode on top of Kana. That's a big kill as well. That's a lot of damage gone for We Are Eternal.
And I mean, this rotation has just been absolutely slick from GrandXur. We Are Eternal don't have any good ways they can approach this fight in the first place, and it's just getting worse and worse.
Yeah, it is.
And that point comes now where they have to fully commit or fully reset. They go for full commit, which they immediately lose, and that gives a ton of ult charge to GrandXur.
And look at that. Hamzy picked up the triple at the end there as well. Himself now on 77%. Charm still got the rocket barrage. There's a chance that he actually doesn't stay onto the fire going on to B. But to be honest, if you have the ultimate and We Are Eternal are completely out there empty, this is big for GrandXur.
Hack onto Kana as GrandXur go to commit, so that means Charm is a bit less contested. They find Carroll, I say that, and they're still able to block that one out. So
Rez.
nicely done. Rez committed, they stay in the fight, and Ison goes down. Papillon low, but he's still up just barely. Silver coin, I believe, will get the self-destructs there. We'll be able to reset the mech. Hugo, not so lucky in terms of staying alive, and Blueberry in with the Transcendence keeps We Are Eternal healthy in the fight. Now this is their opportunity to counter-attack as Jasmine comes up on a grab. They need to deal with Charm, though. They're actually winning the ground game even as Charm goes uncontested. They finally catch him with Ambio. That's going to be Silver Coin taking a dive. GrandXur know they've lost it.
I think Jasmine was probably the MVP of the defense there. He wrapped around to the rafters on top behind the GrandXur team as they were attacking. He was actually the one that dealt the damage, the final blow onto Charm as he was using the rocket barrage. Then he drops down, gets a solo kill on top of Hugo, while the rest of GrandXur are already committed to a fight. Hugo's caught out by him. Jasmine charges up with Graviton Surge, doesn't get to use it, but finds enough pressure and kills against GrandXur to actually stop their push.
Now We Are Eternal in a decent position on the defense. GrandXur coming up on that same combination, EMP and Rocket Barrage. Didn't quite work out last time, so they're looking for another hack on Kana here potentially.
They're just waiting for this charge. He actually doesn't want to reveal. He's waiting for the passive ult to come up.
And it's
ready now.
There's the commit. Where's the Rocket Barrage? There it is. This time much more successful on Ambio and Kana. That's what they've been needing, but unfortunately, counter grab from Jasmine means Charm wasn't able to get any further away from that position. They commit the Rez though, and Jasmine does go down. That's a third. Now 2/3 going over to GrandXur. Actually, not quite that second one, just shy of it, but certainly feels like a matter of time only as Kana gets dropped down. Blueberry Transcendence coming in the nick of time here, but the counter Transcendence is also there from Hugo as Baxter gets picked. We Are Eternal not actually necessarily getting the kills this time around, unlike last time. As they say, they can't find Hugo, but immediately traded back as the second third finally went over.
His name is really good because everyone wants him right now. Blueberry actually finds him, and this is very sketchy now for GrandXur. They still have player advantage, but they are also losing members.
Able to commit the self-destruct is important, and even finding a kill with it and resetting the next second EMP of the fight from Hamzy is going to stop the last gasps of resistance from We Are Eternal. Finding a couple of kills before going down, though, it's not going to be smooth sailing for GrandXur. Losing Hamzy was the most crucial, and We Are Eternal, they've held on for so long, and now that they're finally finding counter trades, they might actually repel GrandXur one more time.
Soldier's gonna sneak through, but oh, they're gonna do it!
What?
Justice reigns from above.
Well, that's gonna be a Charlie Niner.
That's a counter charm where they were charmed off the point. I don't know, that was absolutely disgusting. I mean,
I'm disgusted.
We're Eternal Gaming just forgot about the fact there's a pharmacy still available. They're thinking, well, I'm looking at the point, there's no one standing on there, must be clear. That's going to cost them dearly. Look at this one more time. The members on GrandXur all start falling down so quickly, and it starts again. Blueberry getting the initial frag on the charm, forcing the resurrection rather, and then as people start stepping off the point, GrandXur step on.
And there, look, Marlon, they're like, oh, okay. And they just noticed it too late. Kana was busy chasing a kill off to the side. It's so unfortunate. I mean, look at the time bank difference here as well. When you consider they had won that fight, it could have been even another minute or two before that cap actually went over for GrandXur if it hadn't been for that. Now GrandXur come in with triple the time.
I gotta say, on some level, I think, and this is gonna sound a little dicey because technically, if you consider that if We Are Eternal Gaming just spotted Marlon dropping on the point, which they should have, and stopped the cap over, that would have been their fight win.
Oh, yeah.
But some part of me does also believe that GrandXur in some ways deserved to win that fight because they had such a great lead to start with. It's just very small things that kept stopping them. But it is those small things that are pushing We Are Eternal Gaming ahead, just not that time.
Yep, well, I'm a Redditor, and I'm going to tell you that you're wrong without anything to back it up. So, now We Are Eternal coming out the gate on what is essentially an old school GOATS. including the Moira. So they need to get a quick cap and they know it. Oh dear, the double stun. Ison comes out the worst for that trade. Bucks are on around the backside, but they're not finding the kills. In fact, We Are Eternal going down to the rotation. They must reset fast.
And this is the problem. If you're playing the Moira version, you're going to get out-damaged by the Discord coming up from Hugo. And the reason they are running the Moira is because they expected, they just gambled on the fact that there probably is a Doomfist. There's no Doomfist, and they lose that gamble. We Are Eternal Gaming had no time to scout because they have no time to play with.
And now Blueberry makes the swap onto the Zenyatta, but GrandXur have been able to get the ultimate charge in the pocket. Papillon close to a shadow. That's going to be huge in this fight if it's able to come out. Ison, stun again. He goes down. Papillon's finally starting to get the better of the Rein v Rein situation, and We Are Eternal again split apart as they're cut off on the sides now. The other half do make it back to base, but oh man, Kana.
This is going to be a very late DMAC, and that's really unfortunate for We Are Eternal Gaming. Look at Papillon's position. It's going to be a sneaky shadow play.
To find Ison, stop him from charging for the point. That means no one's going to touch it. Kana had to stay in that position to get a contest if they needed one. They did need one, but still wasn't able to get it himself. He was just a lone diva, did get DMAXed. That's a full hold now on A. And with that almost 4 minutes in the time bank, you've got to consider if they can cap once, they can do it again.
And this is where, if you are GrandXur, you have a lot of time. 3:55 is only 5 seconds off from the 4 minutes you usually get onto A anyway. They only need to get 1/3. They had a pretty decent offense on A as it was. If you sort of cast your minds back, it was the full pharmacy plus the Sombra into a Doomfist Rein Ghost defense coming up from We Are Eternal Gaming. Totally counted out in its entirety. GrandXur now, unlike We Are Eternal Gaming, actually do have the time to scout out properly. They can send a Sombra forward, take a look at what the defense is, and then play accordingly.
At best, this is a tie. That's what We Are Eternal are now looking at. And that would mean the map score remains drawn at 1-1. It would mean everything comes down to the one escort map. But that's only the best case scenario here for We Are Eternal. Worst case scenario is they have to claw their way back in on that escort to take us to a 5th game. This is not a good position.
Sort of GrandXur in this position as well. You know you have a lot of patience. You don't need the flashy win here if you're a team like Talent Esports, and I always go back to this, but they're the sort of team that will look at the scenario and think, how do we just win? We only need one tick. What is a smart way of doing this? They do now spot out the Torb defense with the bunker comp Ison on the Orisa here as well. And now GrandXur just waiting, just thinking about compositions. It's going to be Hamzy looking at the Zarya, potentially thinking about the Sombra, which I think would have still been a decent pick. The Genji is decent because the deflect is always going to be effective. Charm, though, still wants to play the Brigitte, so a little bit of topsy-turvy there, just trying to figure out what they want to do.
They've finally decided to commit to this. They got a lot of dive pressure. They dive in. Papillon, though, takes a lot of shots, and Jasmine's pretty healthy still. Has to stop to heal up a touch, but they're able to get the damage out, and that's what really counts. GrandXur not even getting that 3rd, but this is actually the risk of this team comp from We Are Eternal, because it doesn't sit on the point. If GrandXur are on it for too long, We Are Eternal could just lose the point despite winning a fight.
Great body blocking by Ison there as well, just standing in front of Jasmine with the Fortify. You can't get through all that health pool, especially the shield as well. And for GrandXur, I think they're making similar mistakes to what we saw in the Hanamura in match 1 between Nova and Lynx TH, where I believe it was Nova attacking into Lynx's defense with the Bastion, and they just wanted to dive into the Bastion. I think for GrandXur, don't dive into the Bastion, just play on the point.
Well, Silvercoin does go for the points. The rest dive onto the Bastion. They find Kana, they find Jasmine, they find Blueberry, and it is all over but the crying. That's how fast it happens, man. Jasmine gets res, but he's just a lonely robot. No friends.
I am going to have a caveat in there because what just happened is a little bit contradictory what I said, but at the same time, you have to consider that what GrandXur ended up doing was they sent a player onto the point anyway, which played distraction while the Bastion and while the defense was looking at that player, everyone else wrapped around and found the dive they were looking for. So best of both worlds, I probably have to say here, you get to pressure the point and you get to take the fight, and you only need 1/3. So to sort of finish up that segment, because you only need 1/3, the point pressure is a lot, which means you have to look at who's going towards the point.
I mean, we're now at a situation, GrandXur bringing it to match point. It's kind of not what we expected out of this series, to be honest. Certainly it was a possibility, but we did still favor We Are Eternal all throughout up until this point. And I would say now is the point where I have to say, GrandXur have just started edging out We Are Eternal. They are just looking like the better team. And it's in all those little places that we've pointed out in the past. Ison generally getting the kills on Papillon, and Papillon not getting the same in response.
Which still happened on here.
Yeah, at some points, but also there are a lot of other points where Papillon is getting the better of the trades. We're also seeing the DPSs really starting to come alive when we've previously been seeing that out of We Are Eternal. Now I'm in a situation where I've actually got to say it's We Are Eternal who need to step it up. Not just because if they lose the next one, they're out and they're done, but also because it genuinely feels that now GrandXur are ahead in these two teams.
Well, the thing is, part of the reason why I favored We Are Eternal Gaming going into this just slightly over GrandXur was purely based on the 0-4 result against Nova Esports, which was far more competitive from We Are Eternal against Nova Esports. Outside of that 0-4, I actually think overall GrandXur have been at least on par, if not a better team. If you look at the other 3 matches, maybe outside the Lynx 2-3, okay, take that one out as well. It's a little bit more 50-50, but GrandXur are definitely still, at minimum, somewhat competitive, on par with We Are Eternal Gaming, which is why I think that still holds true. Right now, what you are seeing is small factors just edging GrandXur out a little bit over We Are Eternal Gaming. And we're about to head into map number 4 now. This one could be the decider. We Are Eternal Gaming have to turn this one around if they want to force a tiebreaker, or else GrandXur are going to clean this one up 3-1.
This is just a really strange situation to be in, I have to say. I mean, these are two teams going into this matchup. The possibility was there for either team to win it. I mean, that's what we've got to keep coming back to, right? The possibility has been there for either team. The fact that it's still actually being realized for GrandXur, and in such a way, I mean, honestly, I'm going to be blunt here. It does feel like We Are Eternal are slipping. It does feel like We Are Eternal have not played as well as they did on Lijiang Tower. That was slick. It was clean. Now, GrandXur have stepped up, sure, but it feels like We Are Eternal have actually stepped down a little bit.
I don't want to get into territory where I have to use the L word, the luck word, but there's some element where if they, and by the way, again, it's their own fault they didn't spot the Mercy and the Fire dropping on the point. Yeah. That's 100% their fault, but there's a world where that should have been a defense they completed, or at least one, and then maybe go through where the time bank is a bit more competitive. GrandXur don't nearly have as much time. 3:55 is a lot to go into A for 1/3. If they only had 2 minutes or less, that might have been a draw. I think there is a world where outside of that very, very high impact but small mistake, large mistake in terms of impact, small mistake in terms of just what was actually required to stop it. You just had to stand on the point, right? Then on the other hand, because they didn't have any time to play with, they had to guess what the defense was, played the warrior into a goat's count, into a goat's mirror, which is not what you want to do in this current meta where Zen is far better for actually going head-to-head. Just things going wrong in a bit of a coin flippy scenario. It just didn't go well.
But that's also arguably that step down is not noticing that. But if you are a team right now, if you are We Are Eternal, you have to just put it behind you. You have to just focus on Route 66. That is where your opportunity for a comeback lies. They are not out just yet. We could still go to a Game 5. The hopes are still alive.
Right now, heading into map number 4, it's the land of DPSs, and for GrandXur, they're embodying that fact more than anything right now. Heimish, Hamzy, and Silvercoin, or at least just briefly anyway, they're going to change on a couple of different ones.
Yeah, it's a scouting Hanzo, and arguably a scouting Sombra, but it's a scouting Sombra that they want to stick with. It's going to be a Super McCree on the defense for We Are Eternal.
Which is great if they expected, especially the Doomfist to come through. Still very good against Heimish on the fire here, and I do believe he's going to go for a change here. By playing now the Winston version of Goats, they can go into Super McCree where the McCree itself doesn't hard counter any of their DPSs because they're not running any.
Yeah, that's the saving grace here. Jasmine can still get a lot of work done.
Race isn't even playing this game.
So that's the thing. GrandXur, they do still have to answer this, right, in a way. Like, We Are Eternal can still do a lot of damage on the defense. Silvercoin, speaking of, takes some chunks. It's going to be fine for now.
And the positioning here means that GrandXur, if they want to go for Jasmine, they have to dive past the tanks. Papillon's going to try, but he's chunked out.
Yeah, at least gets the barrier to save his skin for the time being. Heimish gets picked up on the front line, and again, just consistently trying to dive out Jasmine, but you can't actually ignore the rest of these members. This time, Papillon not quite so lucky, does not make it back alive. Silver Coin, same story. Marlon, I think, might make it out of here, but can't say the same for most of the rest of the team.
The ideal member to dive is actually Silver Coin onto Jasmine, because you don't want Papillon to go. He's your main tank. If he's out of the picture, Ison just gets to do whatever he wants, which is why he's got such high ult charge, as well as Kana. Both tanks now very much up there. Jasmine already has the Deadeye. We're Eternal Gaming off to a great start.
This is really what they need. Like I said, that McCree can still do a lot of work, put out a lot of pressure. And GrandXur, they're trying to deal with that pressure. They're trying to specifically target Jasmine, but it's just not working.
Right now, just waiting for where this grab's going to come through. Hamsy's super far behind. Kana's going to throw it out there.
That got eaten, and nice bump back. The Deadeye, it still gets one, but it could have got a lot more. That being said, Hamsy still goes down. So the counter-attack has been far better out of We Are Eternal than what GrandXur were initially able to do, despite eating that grab. And Papillon might not make it very far back here. Unfortunately, not the ideal charge he wanted. Well, oh no, not so much. Baxter finds him.
This is the only part of this offense that really hurts for GrandXur, because otherwise they were probably expected to lose anyway. They got 3 ultimates out of We're Eternal Gaming, played super patient there, banked up their own ults, coming up to nearly 6 here. But for We're Eternal Gaming, getting those last few kills really does help players like Baxter and Amgyo get towards their own ultimates to really match what GrandXur has. But this is a timing window now. GrandXur have lost a couple fights in a row, but this has to be the one they win because they have such a high ult advantage.
I mean, it's got to be, right? But never underestimate the McCree's ability to just out-frag, especially with the squishy members. But there's going to be the grab self-destruct combo. Ison, nice drop on the shield to force that kill through. Now GrandXur off to a great start. And there's only so much that McCree can do. Jasmine will go down here, and that is going to be the cap now for GrandXur.
There's a full cleanup as well. GrandXur only used 2 ultimates, just the combo. Still got 4 in the bank. If We Are Eternal, they couldn't get anything in response. Jasmine got a Deadeye super late. You can imagine even with the Deadeye used, probably not going to be too much difference unless he hits a couple of really clean headshots and just not getting the impact they're looking for. Got to stay on the McCree for now because he does have an ultimate and he does want to use it.
This is where We Are Eternal need to really dig in their heels just that little bit more. They got a lot of time off the clock earlier on A. This is where they need to make it count for something.
The other thing you have to consider here is you should be winning the shield fight. Here comes the Deadeye.
Could have had Marlon for a second there, but they all retreat back into cover for the time being. Just burn some time off the clock.
Very patient by GrandXur. Used the rally there just to get some extra armor, which helps them stay alive against the Deadeye. Just make sure you can't get Deadeye. The shadow does come through.
Oh, nicely done there. And now GrandXur, having lost Heimish, not off to the start that they needed. This is where We Are Eternal. The counterattack can come in big. Hugo and Blueberry, double Transcendence. Now Blueberries will end a little bit later. And with that extra window of time, We Are Eternal have found those few extra kills, and GrandXur again getting forced back.
That's 3 of the 4 ultimates that GrandXur had banked up that they used. Unfortunately for no avail here, Baxter and Blueberry had the counters available, and this is where for We Are Eternal Gaming, because they just bought a little bit of extra time, they have that extra cleanup a couple fights ago as well, which has helped them get towards more ults, and GrandXur, momentum lost now, late kill on the Silver Coin. Means a late respawn, 2 minutes remaining. You're in this sort of territory where even if GrandXur can cap B now, you have to start thinking, do they have enough time to get C as well?
I mean, do they even have enough time to get B? Because there's a point now where if they win a fight, they'll still have to take another fight in overtime. Good wraparound. They choose to approach off the flank. Taking some high ground as well. Now getting down. Huge grab. Oh man, GrandXur absolutely getting the drop on that one. And absolutely no response from We Are Eternal. In fact, Kana's grab, I believe, was eaten.
No, it wasn't.
Potentially cancelled.
He threw it out there and it was just awful. That's the only way I can say that one.
So bad, I was blind to it.
But We Are Eternal Gaming, just absolute desperation. You can see the panic on Kana's eyes. He's going to swap onto the Diva now anyway. Jasmine going to play the Zarya instead, which is a little bit more normal. If you look at the other maps, this has basically been their player sort of hero selections, I should suppose, here for GrandXur. Still have a couple ultimates. Cast nearly at the end.
This is where GrandXur, nice shatter. They need to get a bit more follow-up than just Heimish, because GrandXur still in this one. If they get counter trades like that one on Amgyo, they could still be in a good position in this fight. Looking to get aggressive, but Papillon low. They need to pay respect to that. Marlon as well low. And this is not quite what GrandXur were after.
It's been a bit of a slow start to this fight so far. Still waiting for Papillon to shatter now. we get back into the narrative. Ison versus Papillon. Ison's mainly got Papillon's number in these Ryan duels, but it's Papillon's turn to try and really get a shatter in there.
And it's going to have to be a good one, let's be honest with ourselves. Shatter out from Papillon, it's not great. They don't get the follow-up. In fact, Hamzy a bit vulnerable as he moves forward there. And now GrandXur with that Transcendence running, they're okay for the time being. But Ice and Shatter, they've tended to be good. Ambio gets picked. There is that big Shatter. Heimish low, gets rescued temporarily. In fact, stays in the fight. The rally out. Now the grab from Hamzy. GrandXur, they've weathered the worst of it. And remember, they've got a numbers advantage. Jasmine, again, just a grab too late. The self-destruct gets Heimish, but no one else here from We Are Eternal to really keep this one alive for longer. Baxter, if they want to commit to this, they need to commit a sound barrier, but they're kind of not. Are they committing or are they not?
Apparently not. If for GrandXur, they get rescued there by Hamzy and the Graviton Surge, and this is going to sound very ironic, but Papillon's the black hole of the team right now. It's becoming so predictable. Every time you see the Rhine square up, you know Papillon's going to miss, you know Ison's going to land a big one, and We Are Eternal Gaming, despite that, kind of feels robbed.
Because, I mean, let's be honest, the grabs out of Hamzy have just been that much better than the ones out of both Jasmine and Kana. So now coming through onto point C. Again, very lean for time, which was the concern we have, but you consider they nearly didn't cap A. This is great for GrandXur.
It's still less than 1 minute now, so it is very good considering what you just basically pointed out, but can they actually cap C? Because Ison's got another shatter.
I mean, that's really what this comes down to, isn't it?
There it is. There's something from Papillon.
Finally gets the one, but they don't get the follow-up. Ison, I mean, he did at least get cancelled out. That's something. Hamzy coming up on a grab.
It's still dicey for both teams right now. Hamzy's grab does connect.
There it is. Self-destruct layered in as well. So far, this has paid off, but not this time. No, sir. Papillon low stays alive thanks to Hugo's Transcendence, but soon it'll be Jasmine's turn for a grab, and Ison and Papillon both soon to come back up on Earth Shatters as well. But for now, the cut's moving for GrandXur.
Papillon's going to get it just a little bit sooner, and Marlon's going to get the sound barrier first as well. You need to start seeing Papillon do some more work, because Ison will probably outshatter him. Looking at Jasmine as well, the grab needs to be big.
It's got to be for one sound barrier to largely counter it. Self-destruct layered in, nice charge onto Papillon. Self-destruct didn't find anything, but taking the Reinhardt out the mix is huge when you consider that's the only ult GrandXur had to play with.
Big.
And now the shatter from Ison, uncontested by Papillon, thanks to killing him off earlier. That is finally going to be the hold from We Are Eternal. I think that payload got a lot further than it could have, but you've got to consider still, good hold from We Are Eternal. They set themselves up for a win.
Certainly have, and we have to look at the sort of scenario where, similar to Hanamura, you have to say GrandXur might have gotten further than they should have. You know, there's a lot of discussion there. What ifs, maybes, could-haves, and would-haves, but right now the fact remains we are not going to get to another time bank. It's not going to be like a scenario that we did see on Hanamura. Very similar to Numbani. Now you have a case where the card is very near the end, but it's not quite there just yet for We Are Eternal Gaming. Still a very decent hold regardless of where we ended up. They just need to make sure they can get there themselves now, and they can do that by having a decent A offense, by having a decent B offense, and giving themselves enough time to actually reach that C point, because I'm convinced that once we get into C and we're back into Ryan versus Ryan, Ison is just going to manhandle Papillon to another score.
I mean, even in the earlier stages as well, with the more DPS-heavy lineups, we were just seeing We Are Eternal outplaying GrandXur for the most part with the Super McCree. So, could just see a continuation of that.
Right now for GrandXur, it all comes down to, I think the A and B defense is going to be the most important here for sure. And we have seen some decent play out of them. Just to remind you of how a lot of Hanamura ended up going, agnostic of the fact that there was a bit of controversy on that final defense coming up from We Are Eternal. GrandXur, they're still 2-1 up in this series. This is still technically match point. This is still GrandXur's game to win. We Are Eternal is still in the position where they have to try and take us to map 5.
Baxter? No, he's going to stick on that. That's not a real
back
change.
to Lucio.
Just back to Lucio. Now We Are Eternal out on a mirror matchup. This is, I would say, a mirror that they have tended to win.
I mean, it's coming down to, I think Hamzy's the X factor here for GrandXur. Maybe him and Silvercoin together as that duo. And right now, for We Are Eternal, just looking at the early damage, who can get the lead there?
Nice pushback on GrandXur. They nearly found Heimish there, but not quite. Trying to separate up these members, but GrandXur keeping ranks very well.
Oh, Papillon super low. Takes the Discord orb as well. Now Ison's hungry.
Dear.
Ison's really hungry.
Yeah, it just becomes insurmountable pressure onto Papillon, and great job by We Are Eternal to keep that pressure on the tank. Even when the stuns expired, when the shields went back up, they found another way in and eventually muscled them out.
That was the only kill though, so GrandXur do manage to escape out with most of their players alive, which is going to help them going to this next defense. Not a lot of ult charge for either side because there was only one fatality. And for GrandXur, still get to mount an important defense.
They do lose a little bit of that positioning, but they get some high ground as they approach this fight. We Are Eternal leading in ult charge, though, could be the difference maker. And that's to say nothing of, like you said, the health bars themselves, but Kana gets demexed. That's a good start for GrandXur, because those ultimates that We Are Eternal are close to, they're not up yet. Now Blueberry picked. Ison's got to consider where he wants to commit this, or whether indeed he wants to commit it at all. Papillon does go down, but Ison's already dead, and We Are Eternal are going to get pushed back right as GrandXur come into their ultimates as well.
And the timing was just just a little bit off for We Are Eternal there, because Ison came up the shatter as two members went down, including Kana's mech there. So if it came at a sort of better time, maybe they go down later, maybe Ison gets the shatter earlier, he does get to commit that, he does get to turn around the fight because Papillon is so far behind. That being said though, the other 5 members of GrandXur do have the ultimates, and they are far ahead of We Are Eternal Gaming, who are still waiting for Baxter and Blueberry.
That's really the difference maker here, the defensive options that GrandXur have against what We Are Eternal bring to bear, but not when Hugo gets fragged out. Earthscott finds Hamzy, they don't commit a down barrier to save him, and now GrandXur sorely on the back foot. We Are Eternal just kind of make something from nothing there, and now Heimish getting picked, the last few members, Marlon around the back side of the fight. We Are Eternal kind of got that one for free.
I gotta say, it's certainly not nothing when you consider Ison did shatter there, and every time he presses that Q button, he gets a lot of kills, he gets a lot of setup for his own team. There's been a few times maybe where the shatter didn't land well, but for the most part, if he uses the ultimate, you know it's going to be fatal. And for GrandXur, they had such a huge advantage. Rally was the only ultimate used, didn't get a chance to use anything else. Now it feels like we're back to Lee Jung all over again. GrandXur just don't get to play Overwatch.
This is kind of the opposite as well of what we saw on Numbani, where most of We Are Eternal's time lost was on point A. This time around, they get a better time on that than what GrandXur did. Grab, self-destruct combo thrown in the mix. Silver Coin gets 2 and a half, I suppose, if you count the mech as such. We Are Eternal are going to get repelled back, and that's with Blueberry having committed a Transcendence.
This time around, Papillon does get the charge into Ison, which secures the double for Silver Coin and the self-destruct, and this was probably a fight a long time coming for GrandXur. Nearly 6 ultimates, about 5 ultimates. The rally from the previous fight still into effect as well. Actually, no, it wasn't because they all died, but that aside, 5 ultimates still, it's still a decent lead against We Are Eternal Gaming. So again, long time coming. They had the lead, they just needed to win.
Marlon, a little low, but he's going to be just fine for now. A little bit hairy, but We Are Eternal getting a good wrap round, separating up some members of GrandXur. Now they've actually got to pick the members off, divide and conquer. Here's the conquer part. Grabs come out, self-destruct layered on top, and this is a very difficult one to block, as represented by Papillon's death there, in spite of Hugo's Transcendence. Blueberry in a bit of a tricky spot here, squaring off against Hugo, but they do get the follow-up damage, and Blueberry does collect his dues. We Are Eternal going to keep the payload going.
Now, as a reminder, when GrandXur made their attack onto B, they only kept out B in overtime. So if We Are Eternal Gaming gets something better than that, in fact, they're on path to getting something a lot better than that, they're going to have a very good shot at capping it through C and actually winning this map, taking us from map 5. GrandXur, though, still have room to defend, still have time to stall, still have opportunities to shave down that top.
Only ultimates at play are defensive ultimates from both teams. We do see Papillon with the shatter there out already, but not getting anything for it. Now it's Ison's turn. Here he comes, waiting for it as they throw Papillon up, but he chooses to not throw it out then. Instead, Papillon comes down, but the shield blocks the shatter, and Ambio's the first casualty. GrandXur, kind of lucky that for the first time so far, Ison didn't get the big connection that they needed, but they'll still find Heimish, trades his life for it. That is going to be We Are Eternal rebuffed.
There's going to be a decent amount of trades going both ways as well. This one really does hurt We Are Eternal Gaming because it leaves them a little bit further behind, including a bit of a late stall on Takana, taking that baby diva tax, if you will, for GrandXur, now in position to continue stalling this one through. If they can really extend this fight, if they can win a fight, and they're forced to final overtime commitment onto this B point, then they'll be in a sort of position where even if GrandXur lose this point, they at least force We Are Eternal Gaming to attack C with the same amount of time that they did.
We Are Eternal, that was kind of a fight they needed to win. Now GrandXur coming into the ultimates. We have seen We Are Eternal weather the storm in these situations, but they're going to need to repeat that success, and it's easier said than done.
Right now, just pushing GrandXur back. Look how much space has been taken away already.
Ambio does get low though, so they have to be careful on the frontline fight with the Ryan v Ryan situation. Papillon goes forward, and that's going to open the way for the grab, but Transcendence to largely counter it. Silvercoin very late in with the self-destruct, still finds Jasmine though. That's big. That's a grab off the table now. Ison, if he is going to self-destruct, it's got to be big, but they're actually choosing not to. Kana takes a dive. We Are Eternal want to reset while they've still got a chance, but because they chose to retreat, they're suffering some very late deaths, and they give more charge back to GrandXur.
That's the unfortunate thing about that is you do take a bit of a risk. Sometimes you get out with a lot of members alive, sometimes you don't. The only thing that self-destructed there was the push coming through from We Are Eternal Gaming, who still do have at least a grab to play with. The combo still available for them. That combo disappeared for GrandXur. That's the only difference. The big difference here is going to come down to supports. There's a Transcendence available from Hugo, and maybe a rally coming through from Angier, and it will come down to the overtime push now, so objective completed, at least for now, for GrandXur.
Again, We Are Eternal take a lot of chunks to the open. Again, just whiffed out of Papillon. It's got to be Ison's turn next. Self-destruct forward. Laid in with the grab, finds Papillon, and that means the Earth Shatter can come through. Doesn't really get any members though, but unfortunate angle there. They need to outfrag, they still need to get kills kind of low. D-Max in spite of the sound barrier grab to come in. And they don't get a counter. It is going to be it. Are they going home? Heimish finds a triple in the middle of that grab from Hamzy. GrandXur, man, they eke it out, and we thought We Were Eternal. They had all that time. They had all those advantages, but suddenly push comes to shove. Backs against the wall. They got nothing left to go on. GrandXur are going to playoffs. We Are Eternal are going home.
That is a 3-1 victory for GrandXur. What came out as such a strong start, a commanding lead, a statement from We Are Eternal Gaming. Now, at the end of the series, you got to say it's not going to be Eternal anymore. GrandXur, third place through from Trials, now taking fourth place in their group. We Are Eternal Gaming, a great run through the season. An unfortunate way to end it, but one team out of this match was always going to have to end their journey here. And unfortunately for We Are Eternal, it is going to be them. But fortunately for GrandXur, a super well-deserved win across basically all three maps that they won, especially Route 66. This time, no excuses, no Lux, no Charlie Niners. It's all on them, and they got that one fair and square.
It's going to be real unfortunate now if We Are Eternal disband. It's a bit embarrassing having picked that name. But, oh well, GrandXur, they're able to make it through. I mean, Contenders Trials all the way in now to the playoffs. We've seen a lot of teams walk this path before. If nothing else, it has, at least in the past, secured your opportunity for the next season, no matter how your playoffs run goes. It's not quite how next year is going to work. Some of these teams will still have to battle their way in again, but at the very least, this is a team that's proved that they are within that upper echelon of Contenders teams. They are not in that bracket of teams like We Are Eternal that are going to get sent home.
Yeah, so a massive win to GrandXur, and now being in fourth place, securing their playoffs run. Another open division team that gets to come through and get into playoffs on their very first season. 2-3 record for them. Just getting ahead of We Are Eternal Gaming. Interesting to note here that despite being one full match above We Are Eternal, they're on the same map record. Says
a lot about how competitive We Are Eternal's season has been thus far. That's the extra wins they got against teams like Talon, teams like Xavier, even teams like Nova. But at the end of the day, when it came to their head-to-head, GrandXur showed that they were the better team. And that, I tell you, that's going to serve them well moving into playoffs. Even as they do come in as the fourth place, they will take on the first place seed of Group B, which is looking likely to be Hong Kong Attitude. If you're the team that shows up on the day, that's what really counts. It doesn't matter that they were first seed. Doesn't matter how your games went in the regular season. On the day, if you win, you win. Yeah. You get all the marbles.
And that's the thing. You now have to sort of look back on the season and think what could have been, but for GrandXur, they get to look forward to what will be, and that is going to be playoffs coming in January. But for now, we're going to take a bit of a break, but when we do come back, it's going to be Xavier Esports versus Talon Esports, our highlighted match of the evening, potentially match of the week as well. I cannot wait to see what happens. Top table clash, both teams undefeated, and it all happens right after this break.